Welcome to Book Club for Movies, everybody, for the week of May 2nd. May the marketing be with you.
Marketing Hamill.
That's good. I'm Ryan Miller, and Windfall himself, Matt Amberg.
Yes.
Has anybody called you Windfall before?
Yes, but it usually involves Dutch ovens also. And
On Book Club for Movies, where we watch one movie a week. And if you're lucky enough to do the same, you can find us at podcast@bookclubformovies.com, Facebook, Twitter, and Patreon, where we will also receive messages and money.
Dollar bills.
This week, we're doing Windfall.
It's about money. Dollar bills.
No, that's just Windfall. No money involved. Or it's on Netflix, I guess. I don't know. There was probably some amount of money involved.
Well, I mean, the movie is about money.
Oh, right. Did you watch it?
Have you seen this one?
We'll find out.
Let's talk about it. It's called Windfall. It's an hour and 32 minutes, written by Justin Lader and Andrew Kevin Walker, starring Jason Segel, Jesse Plemons, Lily Collins, and Omar Leyva. Here is your Book Club for Movies synopsis for Windfall. A man breaks into an empty vacation home owned by a rich CEO who then shows up with his wife, forcing the thief into a totally unexpected situation.
Yeah, so this is one of those movies I had never heard of. You came up with out of nowhere.
Totally I was flipping through Netflix one night and Plemons was on the cover of it, and I went, oh, I always like him. He is always interesting. And then I looked at the cast and I went, oh, it's got Jason Segel. Okay, I like Jason Segel.
Just got better from there.
Yeah. And then I actually saw admittedly the hour and 32 minute runtime, and I thought, well, I can stay awake for this at 2 a.m. And
we could have that discussion every movie, I feel like. I mean, we do.
Well, no, but this is one, I mean, like where it was, I was looking for something at I think it was 1:30 in the morning, and I was wide awake, and I went, oh, this is great. This is either going to be really interesting and keep me up, or I'm going to fall asleep because I don't like it.
Which will it be? This will be interesting.
Which will it be?
Or which was it, I guess?
I stayed awake.
Okay, right.
I finished the movie. I went to bed at about 4.
Wow.
Or 3:30.
I watched this last night, and I think up until about 1 a.m. So it kept me up until 1 a.m. I love this. We should do away with the star system completely and just rate movies based on if it kept us awake in our old age.
That's right. I like it.
It's a good barometer. What are you going to do?
Yeah, no. Is the movie interesting enough to keep anybody awake at late evening?
But not just anybody. People that have trouble staying awake at night now because of their advanced age.
Yes, past 8 p.m.
Constitution, yes.
Right. Anything past 8 p.m. if you're 35 plus, believe me, I get it.
Okay, well, that's good then. I feel like you probably enjoyed it enough.
I did enjoy it enough. Whether or not I like this movie a great deal or not, let's find out. Let's talk about that. What's your initial read on this this here fine little tiny 4-person indie film, essentially?
Yeah. I guess I don't know the history behind it, or there isn't much, because I did try to find it, and aside from watching some interviews, which take a bit of time that I didn't have this morning, I didn't see much on, like how this came about. I didn't recognize, in fact, the writers or the director from a whole lot before either. Directed by Charlie McDowell, as you probably mentioned.
Yeah, Charlie McDowell happens to be Malcolm McDowell's kid.
No joke, really.
Wow.
Yeah,
and
that would have been a joke I made at some point without actually thinking it was true.
And one of the writers also wrote Seven.
Oh, okay. That makes a little bit of sense. I tell you what, right off the bat, this thing, and I don't know if this is because we had our Hitchcockian conversation for Breakdown not too long ago, but again, kind of right off the bat, I'm like, Hitchcockian? Now I'm just scared to say it also that I'm just seeing Hitchcockians everywhere. Maybe it's my fault.
Yeah, well.
But the music, it's even just as the opening credits roll, it's on a stationary shot that looks like any type of villa that could have showed up in any number of Hitchcock films, but also the music again.
Right.
Which, oh, man, we should shout out people who make things. Do we know who did the music for this?
I don't. I assume it's just a composer.
Like the cut of your jib, sir. Danny Bensi and Sonder Jurians.
That's a cool name, Sonder. His first name is Sonder.
It's pretty good.
It's a rad
And the
name.
music does Sonder a bit, I guess, really.
Yeah.
So I was into it pretty quickly, pretty immediately. The font went a long way also.
It was real fun, right?
And I don't know if the entire movie is all that Hitchcock. Like I caught some Psycho vibes, I feel like, with the Jason Segel's character is the thief, and he's stealing some amount of money from this villa. Probably would have left, except they arrive, so he doesn't leave and ends up stealing more money from Jesse Plemons' CEO character. And by the way, I believe that's how they're credited, right?
Yeah, they don't
CEO,
none of them have. I don't.
Wife. Jason Segel is nobody. I guess.
He's nobody.
So it's really an Odyssean type telling of. So I could maybe catch some Psycho vibes the way that he was absconding with a certain amount of money,
Sure. It's kind of the early portion of Psycho for sure. The more along the lines of where Janet Leigh is taking stuff and getting to the hotel as opposed to being actually at the motel.
But again, maybe I'm just seeing.
No, I think there's something there. I think what this movie does that Hitchcock not known for certainly, but this movie I think purposefully falls along it's trying to do the Hitchcock thing, but it's also a black comedy. Like it's definitely got, to me, there was a lot of jokes in here. There were
Sure.
funny moments. The movie itself is kind of, the way it plays out is, it's ridiculous in the way it plays out, but it's also played seriously. So I think that works with the tone that they kept it pretty straightforward, pretty serious, but it still had that darker comedy streak throughout, even up until maybe the very, very end, where we get to the final act where things kind of take their turn fully.
Sure.
But like up until the gardener, and I think the gardener, the resolution with the gardener, I think also was very funny. Like because, and we can get into that. It's
sure.
it's the reaction of Plemons' character totally go like he doesn't know what to do. What do I do? And he's just chicken with his head cut off. But it was very funny in
That's
like
kind of crazy. I didn't read that as funny in the least.
Oh man,
not just the situation, obviously, because the situation objectively is not funny, but I didn't read the telling of it as funny. I think streak is the right word, because the movie is black comedically in some parts, definitely, but I wasn't like a laugh a minute. Like it's not overly funny at all. Like it's not wacky. It doesn't go goofy, and it doesn't spend a lot of time on those moments of levity. Really, they're just kind of blurp, like they're in and they're out, and for the most part it plays it pretty. I think you're right. I think the tone is set and good and complete. Like I didn't have any tonal issues with it, but it's not a roller coaster, let's say, until that gardener moment.
But it did the whole movie throughout. I would say, yeah, it's not a laugh a minute, and most of the laughs are like, they're not like I'm cracking up out loud. It's definitely that is humorous. Sure. Yeah. I find that humorous.
You smile, you smirk.
It's very much the Captain Holt thing. I'm having a good time. Can't you tell?
Or one of those numbers 6 and or 9.
yeah, exactly. And I think that, I mean, a ton of that goes towards, the direction. And then on top of that, you've got Segel, who is more known for comedy than anything. But we did End of the Tour not too long ago, where he was playing a very serious straight role, and he was fantastic in that.
A pretty straight comedy too. Like I nothing I can think of with Segel, and I don't know everything, especially his early stuff. He's from from Freaks and
Freaks
Geeks?
and Geeks. And
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
I haven't seen that yet. It's on the list, the short list. I need to
Oh,
watch that
it's
soon.
very funny, but it's it's a goofy TV show. You'll like
Okay.
it.
Well, anything I've seen him since movie wise, he isn't not even in the Muppets really. He's not like wacky at all.
No,
really.
not at all.
So, in fact,
He-
if anything, he might be the straight man.
He is
in
kind of the
Muppets.
straight man in that movie a little bit, but no, you're right. He is mostly. He's not a slapstick comedian that you're looking at stuff like that. He is one of those actors that I think can find a way of saying things in just a funny, like not like the Robin Williams way. He just knows how to deliver a line and knows how to make something funny.
Because he knows that's the thing is I mean, you can't, I feel like, make those type of jokes or set that type of tone without knowing. Like there's got to be self-referentiality to it, self-awareness to it, even maybe more appropriately.
And I think here he's toning it back by a long ways, and the script puts that front and forward, but there are bits where and again, we'll talk about talking about the movie is for the most part Jesse Plemons, Jason Segel, and Lily Collins talking to each other, and then at some point a gardener shows up that they weren't expecting, because at the time the movie starts off with this. It's nobody's there. They're not at this villa. They show up, and very clearly we are thrust into knowing this relationship between husband and wife is rocky at best. They are not on the same page about a lot of things.
Pretty quickly, I can't think of a moment where you think, oh, maybe Jesse Plemons is a nice guy somewhere. Like, I don't think that's ever.
No,
anyways.
He's a total chud in this whole movie.
Yeah.
In fact, in a lot of ways, there is, and it's just because he's so in the news right now. But there are a lot of Elon Musk parallels.
Oh, see, I went Zuckerberg, but sure,
definitely. I mean, it's the same thing. It's the billionaire CEO who's again egregiously out of touch with what they're doing, and I do love that this movie. I think the underlying theme for this movie is it really does focus around like social the currency, right? Like how much money you have makes you who you are. That's what Plemons' character is ostensibly saying throughout the film, is you either have money and you're something, or you're trying to get money. But most people that are asking for help are asking for handouts. They don't want to work. It's that he goes.
Yeah. He had a bunch of great lines that were like whatever that Kim Kardashian tweet was, and then
right, nobody wants to work anymore. Essentially, he's pulling that out, whereas we are never privy to exactly what Segel wants or why he targeted the CEO. We're given some hints that maybe he worked for him, but Segel's character, and I actually did love this, that they left that nebulous.
Yeah.
Even at the end, he says, you're right about one thing, that I wanted to know what it would be like to be like you, to have the power and the money. But it's totally about like social inequity, and it goes from we've got Plemons, who has all the money in the world. We've got the wife who had very little money, needed help. She married into money and no longer has those problems, but is miserable. And then we've got Segel, who has no money and is just trying to figure out a way to get by. So, the themes in that regard are well worn on their sleeve. This is not a subtle movie in that regard.
I didn't find a lot of subtext, and I want to come back to that. But yes,
but
finish your.
Well, and what I was going to say is because of that, I think that this is kind of one of those. Maybe it's more rare, or maybe it's less rare than I think it is. But I feel like movies that have this kind of particular drive to them often do leave quite a bit into the subtext. They want you to work for it a little bit, whereas this movie I feel like is working well by just being real open and clear about what we're saying. Like, this is here. Yeah. You've got this.
Strange enough, though, I would say obviously it is about social inequity, but I think it might be like 49% about that. And the other 51, like most of it read to me as Lily Collins' movie, like the story about her character and how she is kind of torn between two worlds. And the reason why I think that is, number one, I think the movie from the very get where Lily Collins and Jesse Plemons come home, I like this. We can actually refer to them by their actor names. Since they don't
and we don't have to feel weird about it. Yeah.
They come home and interrupt Jason Segel, and Jesse Plemons is in the other room, and Jason Segel makes a run for the door, and the wife catches him, and he just says, like, he puts his finger up to his mouth and is like, shh, don't say anything. And you get the feeling like if she hadn't, he would have just left. But whatever happened, we don't know.
He would have, yeah.
Because the next scene we get is from Plemons' point of view, where Segel is standing next to his wife, and he's like, sit on the couch, get on the couch, and here we go. But throughout the movie, there are a couple other things that kind of make you think, or made me think at least, does this turn out that him and Jason Segel and the wife are in cahoots to some extent, right?
Totally had a moment, right? It's right up until the campfire thing, and then I went, okay, they're clearly not.
Well, I get why, and I think maybe I did the same, but then after that also I came back a little bit like, well, could it still be? Because maybe it was just arranged. They don't necessarily know each other, but they still know there's an arrangement there, but yeah, anyway, in the end, it turns out that's not the case. But why I say I think this might be 51% at least about Lily Collins' journey is because I think what they were doing with those red herrings was kind of further emphasizing how she is really split between these two worlds. And there's some really cool stuff about her tattoos is the refrain. I'm just going to use that during every show now. The refrain throughout this movie where she talks about this tattoo that she's getting removed because her obviously husband didn't like it, even though she did.
He says it was the ugliest tattoo I've ever seen in my life.
That's what I'm saying. Nothing redeemable. Like, they don't really run the middle with Plemons' character at all. Like, everything he says, you're like,
no, he's actually pretty great because the way he plays that character is exactly a CEO. I mean, every corporation that I've ever worked for, that's what the CEO seems like. They're fairly aloof.
No self-awareness. Like, if they do, they don't care. Like, maybe at best.
Right. And they just like he is confident in everything he says. And every time he talks to Lily Collins, like he'll dump on her. And then he puts, like the tattoo. That's the ugliest tattoo I've ever seen. And she says something to the effect of, I was going to be doing this. I'll be doing this in work and all that. And he goes, well, I mean, until we have a baby. And he just he is
right, babe. Everything comes with a right, babe.
Right, babe. End. And then he puts his hand out for her to give her, and she just kind of goes slam and But I absolutely agree. Lily Collins is the main character in this movie. The movie is about her, but I think she also is our stand-in for that social inequity thing because she brings up.
That's part of her. I think part and parcel with what she's torn between or struggling with. Obviously, right. She did go with Plemons because of the money. Like, that's in there certainly. And Jason Segel's character is all about that. For all we know, like, he sees the tension between them, but it's not like he's actively trying to get her to go with him or something. Like, that's almost the moment you think, right, at some point when you're like, well, if they're not together, maybe at some point he's going to be like, should we go? Like, let's get out of here,
And I want to touch on that too, because I actually had that, and I think that moment comes at the end. Do we just want to jump to that? I don't know, but it comes. I mean,
it's a short movie with, like I said, not a lot of subtext and not a lot happening. We might fix that by the end, but yeah, you might just go with what you got.
All right, so I think that there's that moment when everything is kind of wrapping up. We're getting towards the actual, not even the denouement. There's no denouement here, people. There's just a finale, and that's that.
I've said refrain already. You've said denouement.
We've done it. We've got to make an Arrested Development reference, and then
you're right.
Yeah,
Hitchcockian too.
Yeah. So if you can find the Job reference, or maybe there's something to do with a hook.
I got you, man. Don't even worry about it.
Okay. But there's the moment where she stops him, Segel, as he's walking out the door and says, it was a rose. And he's, what are you talking about? The tattoo was of a rose. And he just says, like, I don't care.
That's right.
And I think in that moment, that's the moment where she decided she is alone completely and utterly here. And that because that's her, like, the final thing. She's trying to connect with him. And I think that maybe he doesn't take her with, but the movie doesn't end the way it does if he acknowledges that in a in a normal way. Like,
well, that
the entire
movie completely falls apart too if that's where it ends, where like they set up the tension certainly for it to be like that would have been, you're right, the exact moment where he's like, let's get out of here, and instead he says, I don't care, whatever, he's also been in it for the money. And I think that's right before he sits down with Plemons and finally tells him what's up, right? He's like, I did want to be you, and I was hoping I would get here and you would be a nice guy, and I'd be like, oh, well, this was just whatever, but it wasn't. You're a jerk, and it's everything
and I loved that, actually. I loved that moment because in that moment, I feel like that was written, somebody was mad. Somebody was bothered by a Facebook thing, by a Musk something.
I mean, sure, it's not hard, but also the people making this film are but they're being smart. Like, Siegel has a story credit too, so he was putting in some work as far as that goes.
But what I'm saying is they're being very pointed about it. It's not a matter of like, of course it could be said. This movie is completely about those things. Like that is a huge piece of it. And for Siegel to stare into one of those people's eyes and say, I wanted you to be a good person, but you disgust me. I feel sick.
Yeah.
I like, and it's the way, and he delivers the line and the facial expression, and that was great.
But sorry, what I was saying is if he had left with her at that moment, like, that movie sucks, especially for Lily Collins, right? Like, oh, she just found the right guy. Like,
no, that's not a good ending.
It's not a good ending. No, not that the ending that there is, like, I was still left kind of thinking, which I guess that is a good ending, but I don't know if so the actual ending is that Siegel takes off, but bends down to tie his shoe before he goes, and Lily Collins has gotten free, kills him with a blunt object, with a statuette that we saw, I think, second shot of the movie, maybe, it lingers on it for a second.
Yeah.
And then goes and shoots Plemons with the gun and walks off on her own. I don't think we see her take the money.
No, she because so this is one of those moments too where I loved it, because at the just not 10 minutes prior, she has an opportunity. The money is left outside of this gate.
That's right.
She has an opportunity to flag down a car and leave, because she is told, go out there, get it, and bring it back.
Well, because at that point, Siegel basically trusts her.
He trusts her.
Like, we're on the same page here. I know she's not, because also Plemons has been doing stupid stuff, like writing a note to the gardener, like, call 911, like,
and badgering him, and
which is beautiful, because the money is nothing to Plemons at all. Like, and he still goes through all this stuff, puts everybody in danger, puts her in danger to, get out of giving him this $500,000, I think is what it ended up being, which exactly. Compared to his, he makes a big deal about, I'm valued at several billions, but that's not how it works. No, it's not how it works. You probably have several millions you could still pull out at any time.
Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
anyway. But yeah, so Siegel trusts her to go out to the curb, and that's the moment where you're right. If it was a take the money and run, that's when that would have happened also, and the movie turns around. Well, she turns around.
Well,
and back in with the money.
And it also, I think, stands out. I think that further supports my point in that if Siegel's character had responded in almost any other way, he doesn't get his head bashed in. Maybe she lets him go. But I do think the reason that she ultimately does end up killing him is not just because he also, so she is ostensibly at this point now, she is alone, right? She knows exactly what Plemons is to her, that he doesn't care. He mentions at one point that my primary concern is my wife. And she goes, really?
Yeah.
And again, great reaction. But she has nothing going with him. So I'm trying to make, she has no connection. There is no spark between them. And the chemistry, by the way, between them to have no chemistry, I thought was actually really good.
Yeah, sure, okay.
But it pushes forward that she is reaching out, trying, so she's gone to the one side of the fence. I went to the rich guy to fix these problems and to get a connection. I got nothing. Now I'm going to this person who has nothing, but still has all the power in the world because he's got a gun, you know, and
right.
He does the exact same thing. He shuts down the connection. He breaks it off with her. I don't care about you. And so for her freedom comes from, if I kill him, I can kill him. And then she does. And of course, this is, I think that she doesn't take it lightly. I think she obviously feels very,
she's
like she's affected by it.
She's just in shock, or
but she also, the very last scene of the movie is her taking a deep breath and then stepping off the ledge of the patio to walk out and to be free and to go back to being something else that she wants to be. So I love that. I actually love that ending. I think it's a great ending, that she doesn't take the money. She doesn't do anything. She sets everything up so that she can be left alone, essentially. And if she gets the money from the CEO, well, fine. You know, but that's not her primary concern. Her primary concern never was the money. In fact, they make a big deal of the fact that she's into charities, and that's what she does with her time.
Good point. Yeah.
So this is, for her, it's this, I just think it's, the movie is basically also about her being handcuffed, right? Like she's handcuffed.
I think it's mostly about that, is why that's why I say 51%. Yeah, I mean,
no, I think it's, I would go with, I think it's an even split, but 7-10,
well,
51%, however you bowl.
You know what? We're probably both wrong, because I think I have like some lingering uneasiness with the ending still, and I think some of it might come from when we get into negativities here, maybe in a little bit. But I think my lingering uneasiness is with the fact that I don't have the words or perspective to really finish off my thoughts. Like I would really love to hear what Lily Collins type, wife type characters, that's her name in the movie, I'm not just like, have to say about this,
Sure.
And have to say about her killing both and leaving without the money and all that type of stuff. Like structurally, I think I agree with you, but prospectively, I think I have a ways to go. Like I'm not there. I don't have it. So
no, that's fair.
It might also be because I do like the movie.
Yeah.
It's not anything fantastic. Like I think I'm looking at its 5.7 IMDb rating. It's loads better than that. Like I think that's pretty whatever. I just don't think it's, number one, doing anything terribly different. Like the moment we talked about with the gardener and the gunshot is basically the gardener shows up. He has to sit them all down because Plemons wrote call 911, so he has to take the gardener into all of this. The gardener at one point, as Plemons pushes Siegel again for no particular reason other than he's an idiot, Siegel shoots a hole in the wall to be like, I am serious, I will shoot this gun. Up until then, comparatively little to no violence.
Nothing.
Right?
Yeah. He's been like, come on, sit down. Like, and in the Jason Segel way of like, come on, just go in.
Right. Yeah. They all waltz through their characters. Like they all do fantastic jobs. Like it's nothing. They're all glorious to watch.
Supernatural. It felt supernatural. Not supernatural, but very natural.
But in that moment, he fires into the wall, which spooks the gardener, who trips on an ottoman, I think. Like Dick Van Dyke. Are you kidding me? It's just,
it was amazing. I loved it. I did.
Okay, you're right. This was the moment I said I didn't find funny at all, and I just made it funny because he tripped over an ottoman like Dick Van Dyke. But falls into the window, which gets his carotid probably or whatever it is, and bleeds out on the floor.
Well, yeah, he gets a huge piece of glass stuck in his throat.
Yeah. And for a movie that has moved fairly slowly, like I said, it's not a roller coaster, very little violence, if any, to this point where we get the gun and the death kind of all at once is jarring. I think that's probably why I didn't find it all that funny, and I don't think the movie was necessarily going for comedy at all in the moment, because everybody's freaking out. It gets I know we're going to disagree on this also, I think, but he was giving me a look, by the way. I didn't just force that.
I think you are the Lily Collins in the situation who is not having fun. There is nothing funny about her reaction, but it is the reaction of Plemons and Siegel, that just Siegel immediately going, "Help me!" Like,
I don't know, man. I read them both as horrified. Yeah,
and I thought it was just funny, but it really comes down to Plemons. He is horrified. Somebody died, but the way Plemons truly does seem like a chicken with his head cut off. Like, what do I do? I don't know what to do. I'm not sure. I don't know what to, like, there is nothing. He doesn't say anything other than this is not real. And that, I don't know what to do. That's it. And it is not inherently necessarily funny, but to me, it was that entire situation is very funny to me.
I don't fault anybody for that read. I just didn't have it myself in the moment. And I feel like I was going somewhere with all of that talk towards some negativities. Like, I guess that's the twist, even though it wasn't all that twisty. It's a very well-made film, portrayed very amazingly by some professionals that know exactly what they're doing. It just, the combination of it not doing anything terribly new with the fact that it does kind of wear everything on its sleeve. Like, there's not a lot of subtext, minus the subtext that I'm probably missing again from the point of view that I don't have. It's just all there. It's all them being who they are and saying what they mean, like, for the most part. Even when it comes to the tattoo stuff, like, those are some nice touches visually, and I don't know, maybe this is one of those moments where we've just seen too many movies and we're used to this stuff and it's what we're looking for. Somebody that doesn't know they're looking for that stuff might have had a little bit more to say, but to me, it just felt all very much out in the open. Yeah. Like, no question about what was going on necessarily.
Yeah.
So.
No, and I think that I guess I wonder if that simplicity is, like, do you view that as a negative?
I guess that maybe that's what I'm trying to figure out. I think in the moment I did, because it didn't, like, nothing really wows me in the film. I'm not, like, I enjoy it immensely, and it's awesome seeing people at their best, literally. It's just like, in the end, they didn't make anything particularly wowing to me.
Sure.
I guess. I'm searching for negatives. Like I said, I think it's good, and I think it's better than this 5.7.
It is
wherever, but
I would, if I'm IMDbing this, for me, this is like a 7.5 or something. That's all I'm saying. It's a C+. I like the movie. I think it's a solid flick. This had to be. I kind of love that this is also, we're getting some of these movies from pandemic. Like, that's forcing some of these things to be made where there's only 4 people in the movie. There's 5 people in the movie. So I respect the hell out of that too. That these actors took a risk on a low budget, small little pandemic flick to just do some work probably. And I think that even though it is simple, it's a simple film with a simple direct message. I think it's effective. And if you like any of those actors, this is a great showcase for them and is 100% worth a watch. It's streaming on Netflix. You've got Netflix. We all know you have it. So,
even though you've said you unsubscribed, but you didn't really, because you just kind of
You didn't, not yet. You're waiting, and it's always I'll get to it next month. We've already paid for this month. Don't worry about it.
We're all waiting until they actually do the thing where they make it so we can't share our login information. Then we'll all cancel. It's fine.
Yes, that's true.
But for now, go watch Windfall. Don't listen to IMDb. It has way more than 5.7 stars. It has roughly 392 stars.
Yeah, out of 394.
So plenty to appreciate. If you disagree, you can find us at bookclubformovies.com and the email that's attached to that address. I'm trying to save it. Did it work?
I think you did. I think it's
podcast at bookclubformovies.com or
there.
Facebook and Twitter.
Boom.
Again, Patreon. We love you. You're awesome. Matt, actually, speaking of Patreon, the newsletter went out last week. Am I wrong?
It sure did. Newsletter.
All right.
We did. We're making a change. We are no longer going to be emailing the newsletter. If people want that still, please contact me and let me know. I can go back to that. This was. I feel like putting it on Patreon is a little more useful and easier for people. So
yeah, and you should. I mean, if you're a patron, especially, get an email whenever that happens anyway. So
yeah. So now you don't have to double up on that. I'll no longer be doing that with you. But yeah, the newsletter went up. Got a fun little article on there. Article, not really. It's a short piece about
it's a newsletter. That's
it's a
what
newsletter.
I just call them.
Yeah, that's good. It's got a couple of. It's got a nice little short piece in there that I was very nervous but proud to put out, and I hope you go read it. It'll be public, I think, at the end of the week.
The whole newsletter?
Yep.
Oh, interesting.
Cool. Patrons only are going to get it at the beginning, and we're going to go public about a week later. Because why not? You know that's those newsletters do provide information.
It's true. In fact, I think some of the information we provided was that you will see our poll list episode on Hawkeye.
Yeah,
which is a little different than the Shang-Chi one that we did. And you will also see technically last week's podcast, even though I've finished up some of my freelance work this week. So I should get both episodes edited this week. But the show again, I don't know why I'm saying this, because by the time this comes out, it's definitely also out. The, gosh dang it, what was the show we did last week?
Last week was...
Uncharted.
That's right.
Why couldn't we remember it, man?
Yup. Bingo bango. Got it.
So that's already out. Like I said, either way, stuff going up. Go check it out. That's what we're talking about. There you go.
Yes. Very good.
Matt, do we know what we're doing next week? Do you got another one in the wings? That thing you do where you watch that thing you do, but then also you have a movie already that you're thinking of doing?
Dude, remember that time I watched That Thing You Do and I found out that there was a whole cut that I've never seen, and I was texting you? Like, I was... I'm not going to lie. Okay. That Thing You Do is one of my all-time favorite movies, and apparently the version that I now have has a whole mess of things that not only fill out aspects of the movie that they never really bothered me, but they were like, well, that's a weird thing to just like I understand the cuts, but the threads get dropped in some of them in weird ways that I just...
Well, if you think about when that movie came out, it was probably dead set in the middle of, if anything's longer than 90 minutes, you're having a tough sell. Like nowadays, obviously it's gone the other direction, if anything, but I bet there were cuts that they didn't want to make, but man, this is already going to be 2 hours long. We got to get it down, blah, blah, blah. So I'm not surprised that there is whatever. I don't know if it's a director's cut or whatever that
I have no idea.
But
I have no idea. But there were a whole mess of scenes that I had never ever watched before, and I was losing my mind texting Ryan every there's more of the dentist. Wait a minute, how there's more Chris Isaac? I don't know what So That Thing You Do is always my number one movie.
Okay, all right. So come back next week for.
for That Thing You Do again. Yes.
I did finish West Side Story. If you want to do that, okay.
I wanted to, but I really just have. I don't want to watch it. I just don't want to. I'm not in the mood for that right now.
Okay. I was gonna say I can give you a rest of the show on it right now if you want. Actually, you know what? I can't do that either because I want to rewatch the original now, because most of what I have to say about the new one has to do with the original, and I'm scared to death of being like in the original when it wasn't really like that in the original. So,
but it was.
It very well might have been. So come back next week for whatever mainline movie we do, but also quite possibly West Side Story for the rest of the show. Matt, do you have any actual rest of the show stuff?
I right now my rest of the show is
Watch Moonfall yet?
Not yet.
Okay.
Beth has brought that up now like 3 times. She's like, "We're watching."
It sounds like I want you to watch it, which isn't it at all.
It is. It is.
I want to delete it from my notes badly.
I will mention that I kind of want to write a little bit about this flick that I did watch, and I hadn't seen it in been a few years. And I
Stay at the races.
and I certainly yeah, and I certainly hadn't seen the entire cut altogether. I watched Grindhouse
Oh
this
yeah,
past
saw you tweet
weekend.
about that. Yeah.
Yeah, a little bit. I had not watched that from start to finish, both movies, all the trailers, everything in forever, and it's like 3 hour and something movie when you put it all together.
Because it's both the Death
Yeah,
Proof
and Planet Terror.
Planet Terror, right?
Starts the other way around. Planet Terror is the first movie, but I forgot, number one, how many people were in that movie. I forgot Bruce Willis was in it. That Naveen Andrews, Jeff Fahey was actually he's the only one I probably did remember. I forgot Michael Biehn was in it. I forgot Freddie Rodriguez was in it. It was basically, I remembered Rose McGowan and Jeff Fahey, because Jeff Fahey does have a line that I've wanted to put into a song as a sample for as long as I can think, as long as I've heard it, and I still haven't done it, but I'll someday. He at one point says, after Freddie Rodriguez, whose name is El Rey, he's finally given a gun after asking for one and being told, "You can't touch that, don't ever do anything," by Michael Bihn's sheriff. And he finally gets a gun and just starts laying to waste all of these infected creatures. And there's just a great 70s that Sam Raimi zoom in on the face of Jeff Fahey, and he goes, "That boy's got the devil in him," and it's just perfect. It is such a perfect line, and the way it lays out and everything, super great. I forgot how much I love that movie too. Planet Terror is one of those horror movies that is absolute love letter this is Robert Rodriguez doing a love letter to so many things. And I love that every gunshot, it's not just a little blood spatter. It is a geyser of blood shoots out. It's very, like, it reminds me of the only other gunshots I like more than those are Paul Verhoeven's. Paul Verhoeven's gunshots.
Say, RoboCop territory,
dude. RoboCop, Starship Troopers. The way Verhoeven used to do gunshot wounds was the best. This is a close second. How goofy and gory it is. All the weird stuff. Love Planet Terror. Love the trailers. And then we get to Death Proof, which I have said this before, and I will say it again because I reinforces my belief. My understanding is that Death Proof is the movie Tarantino likes the least of his own movies. It's the one that he's like, it could have been better. It's very much so
strange.
My favorite Tarantino movie by like far and away. Everything about the movie, the how awful Mike is, Stuntman Mike, the introduction to that character is one of my all-time favorite introductions, where he is sitting at a bar. Tarantino is the bartender, and he's eating chips, and his face is like covered in grease, and it's a close-up of him putting nachos in his mouth, and it's just gross. It's disgusting. And it's so perfect for the character because he is gross and disgusting. And the whole concept behind everything he does and the car that is death proof, such a cool idea. And then the build up to meeting Mary Elizabeth Winstead, Rosario Dawson, and Zoe freaking Bell, the Queen, Zoe Bell. It is so cool. It's so much fun. Again, both of them shot in that real 70s style. They obviously did a lot of post-processing, which I think is maybe the biggest bummer. Like, you can totally see with all of Rodriguez, with all of Planet Terror, you can see the specific color correction that he's adding. And throughout the movie, they add, the dirt and the lines that would show up on a piece of actual film.
Yeah, I'd be curious how much of that holds up, because Rodriguez was very much a pioneer in the digital space. So
Yeah.
I'm sure he was pushing the boundaries at that point. with
Tons of
some
it works. And I mean, and Sin City, where he did a ton of that, still, it works gloriously, especially for those properties. It's just the one thing that kind of stands out amongst all this other stuff that I do love and that I think is great. They were trying so hard to make it look like something that instead of just, and I say just, not knowing near the difficulty that it would take to get that kind of film, to film it, to make it actually look that bad, kind of.
Sure. Yeah.
I don't know what goes into that, but but from a digital perspective, you can see it. You know, it's very, very obvious how this was corrected, where the colors are cranked way up to hit those really big hues and those notes of oranges and reds and greens and yellows. Like they are not muted at all, but they all have a tinge to them, and it's that 70s tinge. It's great. I do love it. And I think Tarantino manages it better because he doesn't go quite as far with it. But but overall, those movies are great. And of course, the highlights are absolutely the trailers. The trailers are all so much fun. I mean, we wouldn't have gotten Hobo with a Shotgun starring Rutger Hauer or Machete without Grindhouse.
Oh, Machete, I knew. I didn't know Hobo was born of those. Is
Yeah.
there a straight up Hobo with a Shotgun trailer?
Yeah. So
okay.
it was when they were making the movie, they put out, it was a contest. They did a contest for short films to be added in as a trailer, and Hobo with a Shotgun was the winner. Now in the original trailer, it's not Rutger Hauer, because they were making it no budget up in Canada.
But they knew it was Rutger Hauer in their
We
hearts,
all did.
You know. Yeah.
We felt it in our bone. Single bone.
Oh, that's cool. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
Machete I knew, obviously, but yeah, cool.
Planet Terror is good. I like Planet Terror. It's super fun. It's obnoxious goriness. Josh Brolin is just gross in the movie. Everybody's gross in that movie except pretty much
Rose
McGowan.
Okay.
Yeah, kind of, and Freddie Rodriguez. Everybody else.
The
is
one who, if I'm not mistaken, has the amputated gun leg.
She does get the amputation and
okay.
ends up with the machine gun leg.
Least gross character, easily.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay.
She does use her at the beginning before she gets the machine gun leg. She's stuck in the hospital and Freddie Rodriguez is saving her, and he jams like it's like a table leg or something onto her where her stump is.
Mm-hmm.
Like she's got like a metal peg, and so he jams that on there and he's like, "Let's go. Well, you can walk now." And of course she ends up using that to stab somebody in the eye, and it's great.
Yep, definitely haven't seen that.
Yeah.
All right, cool. I am glad you went for a while because I don't have any rest of the show.
Okay, because I have one more actually.
Oh, good. Great.
So this past Friday was May 1st. Was it May 1st? No, it was
No,
the
that
30,
was yesterday.
the last day of the
Sure.
second to last day of the month, I guess. I don't know. Whatever.
29th might have been, actually.
I don't
Second to
know
last.
how many days are in a month anymore.
You leave the dates to me.
I sure will. But Joe Bob's Last Drive-In came back.
Right. Yeah.
And it was his 100th episode, which I 100% am going to recommend you at least watch the first episode, the true 100th episode. It's always broken into two. First 100th episode is the first time in his career he's ever shown Night of the Living Dead. And
Which
that
is
was
crazy,
not only crazy, but boy, oh boy, did they show the transfer too, man. It was a glorious transfer. It's a beautiful version of the movie. But this was very cool. I know a ton of the history and all the stuff that goes into that, and I still learned a bunch of things from him that I didn't know. One of the highlights of that episode was he brought Svengoolie on, and Svengoolie is one of the he's an older horror host from the 70s in Chicago. He's now he is nationwide now. You can catch him on MeTV. He still does the same goofy show he always did. He's known for his rubber chickens and his really bad jokes.
I love him.
Svengoolie, he paints his face. He's got like real dark eyes, and it's a whole thing. Svengoolie is very much so in the vein of like Elvira, where it's a persona that he puts
Awesome.
on, and it's awesome. And he showed up and they talked about all the stuff that he used to do. And he actually tells this really great story about how, because the show is so no budget, he's like, he works like on the thinnest of lines to keep the show going. At one point in his career, he got to host every episode of the Three Stooges. And part of his gimmick was he would come up with themes for the show. So he came up with a theme for like 100 episodes of the Three Stooges, totally separate themes on the cuff, like off the cuff, just did it. So that was cool. And I highly recommend give that a watch. It's great. It's super fun. And you'll hear some stuff that you never heard about. But the second movie he showed, I had never heard of in my life. And it was the first movie he ever wrote about, did anything with movies about. He wrote about it when he was writing, as I think he was John Bloom at the time, not which is his real name, not Joe Bob Briggs.
Sure.
And it's called, it was originally called The Grim Reaper. It was also called Anthropophagus, which is what it's called. And Anthropophagus is another phrase for cannibal. So this is an Italian movie that it has like 8 people going to an island to vacation, and there's a single cannibal on the island, and
like he's unmarried.
He's single, and well, I mean, and like halfway through he burps up a ring, and he's like, oh,
so separated.
Yeah, exactly. Well done. So this movie is about what you think it is. It's from it's from 1980. So it was made in probably 78, 79. It is again dubbed, but this is a conversation I was thinking about proposing to you for a show, a completely separate show, because I think this would actually be really fun to talk about.
Show, like recurring show?
No, an episode, just a single episode.
Okay, all right.
But something a little different than we normally do. And that would be talking about payoffs. So, it's the Chekhov's gun thing. So what's going to be the payoff? I was thinking about it actually with Windfall, the payoff with Windfall. I kept going, okay, I know something is going to happen to him because of the shoe tying thing. It's happening too many times for this to not be a thing. Okay. And in fact, the first time he ties his shoes, Plemons goes, nice. Like, it was like real weird, but you get the payoff with that, right? It's that whole concept of what is the thing that's being set, and then what kind of a payoff do we get? And Anthropophagus, I think, may have the greatest payoff of all time for me. And it is horrible. It is gross as hell. And I was hooting and hollering and laughing. And Beth was sitting right next to me, and so I'm going to tell you, because you'll never watch this movie.
I love these ones.
Now, again, what you got to understand is this came out at a time where, number one, it's Italian. Number two, things like Cannibal Holocaust, Cannibal Pharaoh, those already existed. We'd already seen that. I was gonna say
I feel like there's an Italian like cannibal exploitation genre or however that goes.
Yeah, pretty much. And this one is no different. But boy, like, this has the payoff. And here we go. So in the group of people that show up, we have like 4 or 5 people that are just your standard fare of person. You've got a blind girl, and we got a pregnant woman. So number one, I'm not gonna lie, the blind girl makes it 3/4. Like, she's almost survived. She's like the second to last person to die, and I was a little bummed out by it. I was like, oh man, the blind girl, come on. But it's the pregnant lady who really, really gets yeah. So the payoff throughout this movie.
You could stop right now, and whatever I'm thinking is hopefully worse than what actually happens.
So number one, it doesn't, like, the way it's shot is brilliant, because you don't see anything. It's very much a sound effect thing. But this cannibal, you got to hear it now. But you're bringing in the pregnant woman to a cannibal island. In almost any other movie, she is the one that survives because nobody's
dumb enough to
except Joe D'Amato, which is not his real name.
I wouldn't use my real name either.
Well, there's a different reason that he doesn't use his real name, but yeah, it was. The movie is about as great as you think. If you like schlocky Italian cannibal movies that are slow, you'll like this. I enjoyed it and will very much so watch that again.
Boy, okay. Well, if you want to support us on Patreon,
I can't imagine you do now.
To patreon.com/bookclubformovies. Come back next week for whatever we end up doing, and stick around this week for everything we did last week.
And go to youtube.com/bookclubformovies, and then smash that like button and crush that little bell to get reminders. Isn't that how it goes? Did I do it right?
Yeah, sure.
That's the end of the show.